Well, hello everybody and welcome. You have tuned in to episode number 393 of Linux in the Ham Shack. This is the most terrific amateur radio podcast on the internet, as we have been saying for some time now, and we're glad you've joined us tonight. And we have a long topic, a deep dive, and we've announced that a couple of times in the past, and it's our deep dive into Dude Star. We have the author of Dude Star with us tonight, so we're going to be talking to him about all the good things about it. And before we get to that, let's go ahead and tell you who we are. I'm Russ, K5TUX, and Cheryl is on a assignment of deliciousness. So she'll be back next time. But then we also have...
I'm Bill, NE4RD. Good evening.
And we have a guest that we're going to hopefully interview, maybe well, maybe poorly. We'll see how that goes. But this is Doug McLain, AD8DP, Alpha Delta 8 Delta Papa, who is the author of Dude Star, a project that allows you to connect to all those fun new digital radio services using nothing but a sound card and a computer, well, and a microphone and some speakers. But you don't even need an ambi chip, and we're going to find out all about that later because I have a question related to that. And in the meantime, let's go ahead and introduce Doug. How are you doing tonight?
Very good. How's it going, guys?
Well, it's going pretty good here. Finally, the dust is settling. So we usually start these off by letting our guests introduce themselves in whatever way they see fit and maybe tell us a little bit about your amateur radio career. And then we'll let you get into how you started on Dude Star and whether you're like an actual programmer or whatever, or you just kind of hack this thing together. But, I don't know, start sort of towards the beginning and, it's only an hour show. So some people like to talk. But anyway, tell us a little bit about yourself, Doug.
All right, very good. So, let's see. I think I've been a ham now since 2013, and I got into. I've always been. I'm a gearhead, car guy, electronics guy, and computer guy. All three of those, and musician. So all four of these things, I guess, kind of led me to ultimately finally get a ham radio license. It happened when I had a recording studio that I was living in at the time, and got really into audio electronics. I was building mic preamps and stuff, and getting that deep into the audio electronics ultimately led to studying audio electronics. Led to radio electronics, and then I was like, oh man, and then I started. This is finally what put me over the edge. Is I started scanning, just regular analog VHF, UHF stuff with a little $20 cheapo handheld scanner, and kept stopping on ham radio stuff. And my dad was a ham growing up, but I never really took an interest in it in my younger days. But when I heard all that traffic on the scanner, then it was like, that was it. So I studied and got my ham radio license, and the rest is history. So that's how I first got into ham radio. And then what should I go into next? Go right into the Dude Star next, or what do you think?
Oh, if you want to tell us a little bit. Well, you've given us your background. What about your programming background before you tell us about the project itself?
So I'm a car guy turned electronics and computer guy. So I'm an engineer at General Motors. I was totally on the mechanical. I started out on the mechanical side. I'm not a 4-year degree holder. I'm just I got a 2-year electronics degree. And I was in the Army where I was a mechanic in the Army. So I came out of the Army and went into General Motors as a dyno technician. So I was always on, the mechanical side. And then I got more and more into the electronics of engines and powertrain controls, and got sick of wrenching and got more into the electronics and then more into the computers. And so where I've landed now is doing automotive CAN network simulation in the dyno lab. So my programming experience came from learning how to write software for automotive, embedded stuff. The Arduinos came out. I was already into embedded stuff, and then the Arduino stuff came out, and that was just like, oh, these things are sweet. But I had been into it already from the old Atmel boards and stuff like that. And then I got into how I got into more higher level stuff, where I really became confident in my, I guess you call it like computer science capabilities, was an open source. I guess just to say, I got my first internet-based computer in, I think, 1997. For about 6 months after I got that, I found Linux and have been on it ever since. So I've been exclusively Linux since about 98. And when I was in this recording studio thing, we started doing, I built a studio around a digital audio workstation. And initially it started out with like Cubase and stuff like that, but then I soon found this project called Ardour, Ardour. The lead developer is a Brit, so it's Ardour. And he actually happens to be, his name's Paul Davis, and he happens to be one of the co-creators of Amazon.com. He got a couple $1 million payout and left early on because he didn't want to be part of this was way back when it first started. And then he went off and created this open source digital audio workstation called Ardour. I got deep into that. I was heavily involved in that project for about 4 or 5 years. And that's where I went from just doing like low-level C and assembly stuff on microcontrollers into really just learning how to write real, GUI-driven C++, correct, I guess what's the word? I went from writing really bad spaghetti code to evolving into stuff that actually is a little more constructed better. That's what I'm trying to, that's the point I'm trying to make here. And that's the project that led me to be able to do that and so on and so on. And that project was, it had always been Linux. Now it supports, I kind of, if you say the word Elmer, they use the term Elmer in the ham radio, world. Well, him and that project would have been my, my open source and programming Elmer. So that's what led me to, where I am now in my programming interests and abilities. And this project is the first, aside from Ardour, this is the first and only one of my own that I've ever, aside from Ardour, where I was just one of the one of the many contributing developers. This one is just one of my own. So that's how I got here.
All right, very good. So maybe we should move into the reason you wrote this particular application, because it speaks to maybe being interested in all these digital radio modes and maybe not finding a satisfactory solution, or did you just want to get out of having to have a piece of hardware like Bill does?
No, that's a good question too. So how this happened was just, I mentioned my interest in scanning. Well, that interest grew exponentially when I got my ham license, and I became one of these hams that like to listen more than talk for the most part. And I started being, big. I got into, soon after I got my license, I got into the RTL SDR stuff. Which I just loved. I loved that stuff so much, and I would listen to everybody, And what happened was there's this local Detroit repeater called the Double Nickel, because it's 443.55, so they call it the Double Nickel, local analog repeater. And then one day, guys kept talking about, they'd be in the middle of a conversation, and then it would be, hey, let's go to this reflector 24 Charlie. And I had no idea what that was. Long story short, of course, D-Star, okay? And the D-Star repeater, it was hosted on the same tower. So knowing, I was big into digital decoding using RTL SDR, but I just couldn't they had just put this D-Star repeater on this tower. I just couldn't get a clean enough, a strong enough signal, I guess is the better word. I could never get a strong enough signal for this new D-Star repeater that everybody kept going to, and it was driving me nuts that I couldn't listen to these guys. So I created what evolved into DudeStar, but at first it was just called D-Star Monitor, and it used MBE Lib, the same open source decoder only that is used by DSD and DSDCC and DSD Plus and all those things, with the RTL SDR. So I figured out, well, if I can't listen to them over the air, I guess I can learn how to pick them off the network. And that became D-Star Monitor, which I soon changed to the name DudeStar. And for the longest time, well, maybe not the longest time, but for quite a while, it was a D-Star only, listen only application for Linux. Yeah, for Linux only. Always was. Was it? Yeah, it was always. Well, actually, in the very beginning it was command line only, but that was never posted anywhere. And then the first, then I went to QT, knowing right off the get-go I knew I would always want this to be cross-platform, so I chose QT as the GUI toolkit, and then from there it just I should have known the day that I started that of course it was never going to be D-Star only. When it first became transmit capability, though, it was hardware only. The software vocoding stuff didn't come till later. So first it was D-Star software monitor. Then I added, USB AMB 3000 support. And then, and then the other modes just sort of, it just became like the floodgates had opened. Now, I became engrossed in this stuff, and it was just one thing after the other.
All right, very cool. I thought there was more there. That's why I paused. and also, there's like a lot
over. I should have said
over. No, that's all right. There's a lot of like ambient dog barking noise in the background. So apparently my gate's doing something, because I don't think anyone heard that. But
nope.
Okay. All right. Cool. So now we have the idea. So what's the back end? You said the Qt is the front end. So what's it written in otherwise?
It's all C++, which includes, Qt is also C++. It's all C++, and some C. There's some C in there, like, the MBE Live itself, which used to be an external dependency. I picked everything out of it that I needed for this and just integrated that, for example. So that's C, but it's all C and C++. There is actually a recent addition, a very small amount of Objective-C with a .m extension. That's just for the Mac OS. That's its native language for Xcode GUI apps. So there's a small amount of Objective-C in there that's required to get that window or that microphone permission. God, that drove me nuts. That was a couple of weeks of pulling my hair out there. I could not figure out how to get the microphone permission so that the microphone could be used in the Mac OS version. But so that's, there's a little bit of native Objective-C in there for that, and the rest is all C and C++.
All right. Well, you said you started off with D-Star and just being interested in D-Star. So are you sort of interested in these other modes now, or is it just that you couldn't avoid including all of that stuff in it?
No, I am completely, how do you say it? I don't have a favorite. I love them all. I love knowing everything about every mode, every single. I don't like one over the other. You'll never hear me say, "Oh, I hate this mode. I don't like that mode." I know what each mode, I know what the differences are in each mode. For example, DMR is not a ham radio protocol. It's a huge reverse engineering effort by the ham radio community, and because of that, that's what makes DMR so cool. But so many things about DMR that I think a lot of ham people don't like is, I don't know if they think about that or realize it wasn't created for them. It was created, it's a commercial protocol that other ham radio operators reverse engineered for the purposes of ham radios, for example, and P25 too. But really, DMR is the one that because I think it really is probably the most popular mode of all of them. And D-Star, the thing I like about D-Star is that it was created by hams, for hams. It wanted to be it wanted to be the first and only open. So truly, it was done by the Japanese Radio Relay League, and they wanted it to be a fully open protocol and everything. But there was one huge thing that they couldn't get around, which was, at the time, there was only one option for a vocoder, which was the proprietary VSI AMBI vocoder. So that kind of killed everything for them, unfortunately. I'm segueing into something that I'm really into now, which is the up-and-coming M17 protocol, which is another attempt at this, but this time it's going to be done right. I'm actually part of that team now. So M17 as a whole, it's a brand new protocol from scratch. But the reason that this one is going to succeed where D-Star couldn't is because of Codec 2, which is a completely open source vocoder. So that's what M17 is based around. And right now there's a whole slew of network reflectors up. The DudeStar, DroidStar has kind of been named the official network client for M17, although was not the first. The first was M-Voice, which was written by N7TAE, who also wrote the original M17 reflector. So, boy, I sure did go off on a tangent there, didn't I?
That's perfectly
He started M17, but your question was about modes, so I just wanted to I wanted to give a little love to each one. Fusion, what do I got to say about Fusion? It's probably the easiest. You don't have to do anything. You just pick up the fact you could transmit on Fusion and be known to everybody as FT-991, which you see from time to time when somebody takes a 991 out of the box and doesn't program their call sign in there. So easiest definitely goes to Fusion, and it's a high quality. It's definitely a high quality protocol. What I don't like about Fusion is WiresX. On my list of things to hack is the WiresX protocol, so that someday there can be an open source alternative to that. But the Fusion digital radio protocol, I think is great. They're all great. So there, there you go. I got nothing. I got equal. It's just something for me. It's just something else to figure out. You know what I mean? I don't have a bias towards any or anything like that. So to best answer your question, that's why they're all in there, is because I just have to know everything about all of them. In fact, I never had any interest in All-Star till just a couple weeks ago, because somebody sent me a kind of nasty email, said my app sucks because it's not it doesn't do All-Star. So now there's All-Star.
You should never fall into that trap.
Yeah, I know, but I actually like All-Star now because of it. I kind of found I've taken an interest in it now.
Oh, very good. Well, I have All-Star nodes here as well, so I'm into All-Star. And the only thing I have not tried to interface DudeStar with All-Star yet, only because it uses the IAX interface, which is that old phone SIP technology, which is not SIP because it's EEX. But my configuring other things to use that to get into All-Star is not super intuitive to me. So, is that the only way you're going to be able to interface with All-Star for the moment, or are you planning something a little less, what I would call clunky, which other people may not call?
Well, I wasn't kidding when I said I got about 3 weeks into All-Star. What you just said kind of went right over my head. All I know is that I've got an All-Star node sitting here next to me with nothing hooked to it. It's simply really just a Pi running here, and my IAX client to it, which is DroidStar or DudeStar, I kind of feel it's like a remote control to it. But I am only aware of the IAX interface to an All-Star node. I don't even know what other options there are. I just know because the email referenced DV Switch Mobile, for example. So as well, DroidStar can do that. DudeStar can do that. That's all. That was what my goal was there. An IAX client to an All-Star node. So that's what it does right now. But that's all I know. I don't know. I didn't even know that you could do SIP into All-Star, or if you can, or so on and so on. So, of course, as soon as I find out something like that, well, I'm sure it'll be something I'll
be a new feature here shortly, right?
Yeah. No, All-Star does not.
But I
support
did
SIP.
think you said it was an old. I did think that IAX. I know IAX is basically extinct in the telephony world, but I thought it was the what do you say, the like primary client, well, I should say client to All-Star nodes in the ham radio community still, though. That I did think was the case.
Yes, it is. And I was sort of talking off the cuff there, and I may not understand enough about the way All-Star works to make a reasonable comment about that. It's just that, like, when you're using All-Star, the way I use it, with a radio interface, I've done it like connecting an EEX client like Voiper or something like that to All-Star for a phone, through a phone, and that setup is a little clunky. And I haven't done it yet via DudeStar, so I don't know
Okay, yeah.
If it's the same,
what you just described is exact. That's VoIP 2, yep. That's another example, yeah. What were you saying, EEX? What is that? Is that an acronym?
Yeah, it's IAX. I learned because I did the SIP and EEX and stuff way back, and they always said that that's how you pronounce IAX.
Yeah, that's funny about in general in my Linux career. I'm one of those people I don't ever pronounce because my whole learning of Linux and computer science has been 90% over IRC. So I've always read acronyms. I've never said them, so I've never done it. I don't say GUI. I say GUI. I say IAX and so on and so on. Yeah, I've noticed that because most people do.
And you say QT instead of cute, which QT, annoys Russ.
Yeah,
I do it all the time.
It does not annoy me. It's just that's the people who wrote cute say it's cute. They're the ones who are annoyed by people who say QT, not me. So anyway, we should probably move on from that. So I do want, we have talked with David Rowe and Bruce Perrins and stuff like that, the folks who are behind Codec 2. They've been on the show. And we have been trying for some time to get, what's his name? Sebastian? No, not something like that, with M17 to come on the show, but they've been reluctant so far.
Which one? Who you talking about? Wojciech?
Yes.
Oh, he's my boy. I'll get him on here if you want him.
He said he will not come on the show because he does not. He does not. It's not because of the show. It's because he does not think he speaks English well enough.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, I could see that. I guess. Again, I talk to him all day. Well, I talk to him every day, but it's over IRC. So
right.
I think I've talked to him on a reflector maybe twice, briefly.
Well,
so yeah,
maybe
that would
we'll leverage you a little bit in the future to get somebody from M17 on the show.
Sure. Well, I'll tell you who would be a great one. I'll tell you right now is he's kind of like the second in command. He's the sort of the network administrator of the whole project, KC1AWV. Steve Miller, is that his name? God, because I just know him by KC1AWV. What's his real name?
I believe I've talked to him. I think he's from my home state. I think he lives in New Hampshire.
Steve Miller.
Yeah,
he lives on the east.
Dover, New Hampshire,
Maryland.
Yeah, he's no, I think he's in New Hampshire, but
Dover,
at least
New Hampshire.
Yeah, that's him. I've talked to him. So we'll get somebody on the show at some point. But anyway, this is a talk about Dude Star, so let's get back to Dude Star. So I'm really.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because that's my home state, so I bring it up whenever possible. So, I was wondering if DudeStar had any code, or did DudeStar borrow anything from PyStar because of the fact that they do a lot of the same things?
Well, when you say PyStar,
or even just theory.
Well, PyStar in essence is a collection of PHP scripts. When you say PyStar, I think you mean MMDVM host.
Right, MMDVM host, which is the thing that's underneath all of that fluffiness.
Yes. Yeah. And the answer to that is a ton of stuff comes from there. And I'm contributing back to MMDVM host and MMDVM_CM for cross mode. All those MMDVM CM utilities that are in PyStar, I'm pretty much an equal contributor back to that repository. And I added the first set of because the existing cross mode tools that have always been in PyStar are just ones that don't require transcoding, like DMR to YSF, YSF to NXDN, NXDN to DMR, etc. Around those three, those cross modes can be done because there's no AMBI transcoding required. You can extract the AMBI bits from one mode and stick them into a frame of another one without. Oh, I got some noise. Turn that down. And so on and so on. So I just recently added a bunch of new in process of writing DudeStar and learning the modes through MMDVM host and MMDVM CM. I created a whole bunch of new transcoding cross modes called. There's P25 to DMR, DMR to P25, DMR to M17, M17 to DMR, and then there's D-Star to XXX, where it's going to be D-Star to all to NXDN, YSF, DMR, et cetera, et cetera. And I've been going back and forth here with Andy Taylor from PyStar. those will all be added into hopefully a very soon future Pi-Star release, and then Pi-Star will be fully transcode capable, and all these transcode options don't require any hardware except for the D-Star ones. There just isn't a good enough software vocoding option for D-Star yet. But the nice thing, though, is even in the case of D-Star to any other mode on a Pi-Star, where usually to do real-time transcoding, you have to have two. So, for example, you would need, like the OpenSpot 3 does real-time transcoding with AMBI chip, plural. You got to have two. You can't just have one. You got to have two. Or more likely, based on the size of that thing, it's probably got the much more expensive AMBI 3003 chip, which is basically 3 chips in one. So what I'm doing with the D-Star to whatever modes is using that same MD380 firmware-based option for the one half of it, and then just one AMBI dongle for the other half. So basically what I'm getting to here is that when this is all pushed into the Pi-Star, you'll be able to transcode D-Star to all the other modes with simply one USB vocoder, and then the other half of that vocoding solution will be done through the MD380 vocoder firmware I use for the DMR Fusion and NXDN, or the open source options for P25, M17, and etc.
Are you going to be doing that for XLX as well? Because it would be nice if you only needed one AMB for cross-mode pairs.
I did think about that, yep, because XLXD's got the AMBI daemon in there, which also requires two. That's on my... If you're getting the impression here in our conversation, I'm a scattered ADD boy. Yes, that's somewhere in that convoluted list things to do today. Yes.
Okay. I
do want to do that, though, is provide an option in AMBI-D to only need one vocoder as well.
So is there just no way? Because I mean, you're encoding D-Star now using D-Star, right? I mean, without an AMBI chip. So
yep. But if you've done it, if you've tried it, and hopefully not like on 1 Charlie or 30 Charlie, or they'll probably ban you because they're kind of Nazis over there. It doesn't sound good. It's nowhere near. It's not even good enough for one-on-one usage on a client, like on the client side, but it's certainly completely incapable of being used on a server side, transcoding any stream from anybody that comes anywhere. It's just not good enough yet, and that's a little bit out of my realm right now. That's some serious science there, open source vocoder technology.
Is that because the reverse engineering of the chip for doing the software encoding just isn't good enough yet, or is there a resource limitation?
No, nothing to do with just simply it's just the reverse engineering effort just didn't get the D-Star implementation quite right. Yeah, no, it has nothing to do with resources though. I mean, honestly, these algorithms could run on a Timex.
Okay. Very good. So, Bill, I'll let you've got a few things in here that you wanted to talk about, and one is about text-to-speech and stuff. So, before we do that, let's just go ahead and talk about basic setup, like install, setup, and running of D-Star. It really shouldn't take more than a couple of minutes because it's pretty straightforward. Yeah.
It's pretty straightforward, but I do acknowledge if anybody that listens now or listens later, I've gotten many emails over time. I throw this disclaimer out that I'm just one guy, and it's just a slow project, and it's extremely beta. So documentation is limited, scattered, as is my ability to respond. So I do acknowledge that some things may not be obvious, and I know documentation is pretty weak. I'm just acknowledging that right now.
Yeah, that's completely fine. I know I've personally installed the Android versions. I've got Droid Star running. I've tried the Windows version that you have built there for the last release that you put out, and that one works.
Which, by the way, I'm proud to say I don't even require Windows anymore to build those. To go back earlier about being exclusive to Linux, I used to do it in a virtual machine. I don't even need that anymore. So I've got a complete cross-compiler build environment set up that creates that whole static single exe Qt libs built right in, and it's just right from a Linux shell.
Yeah, that's very nice. That's very nice.
And that happened because that happened. So I'm kind of glad that 33 didn't have VirtualBox right away. I had to come up with a solution quick, and I finally sat down and put together a nice Windows cross compiler on Linux. So that's what prompted that.
Wow, yeah, you could probably put that up on your on your repo and share your building of that, because that's
That
probably
was a
helped out
project.
a lot of folks.
That's a serious. Even setting the build up on. Well, this might have been one of your questions anyway. So let me just get to this now. The Windows build is. It wouldn't be that hard if you were just creating a Windows build for yourself, but creating a Windows build that's static with all lives, included, where it's just a standalone executable that has no external dependencies whatsoever, it's a non-trivial task. It requires that you have to build the Qt library from scratch on the platform that you're going to do that on. So that's why there are no Windows build instructions anywhere to be found. It's just that's a book.
Yeah, it's literally a monolith exe that you get from the download.
Yeah.
There's no installer, there's no DLLs. It literally is all inside of the executable, which is kind of convenient, but also is confusing at first.
Yeah.
Like, really? I don't think I've seen this in a while. So yeah, it's interesting to hear that it is from C++.
I don't like the concept of the registry. I don't like installers. I don't like any of that nonsense. So, but I think it's foreign to Windows people. They're not used to just grabbing. They used to. It's not always been that way. Back in the old days, you used to get executables all the time, but that's not really so the case anymore. I use flat file config files in the home directory of the user that runs it. Windows people don't. I don't mean Windows people. Windows software. It's all based around Microsoft ideology and the registry and all that crap.
Well, not all. I mean, if you go into your home directory on any Windows computer, you would see a bunch of trash, and a lot of dot folders and stuff like that are from various open source apps and stuff like that. That's still, that might be compiled in Windows, but yet still act like as if they're in a Linux environment using dot files. Not everything uses the app data folder or the program data folders and stuff like that. So, but it was convenient because I first installed it on Linux, which of course you compile from source, which was quite easy to do. Having already built WSJTX, I think I had all the dependencies already.
Yeah.
In my build environment, so it built instantly. It was like no big deal. So I tried the Windows. It looks exactly the same. Tried the DroidStar, which just updated the other day. So you must have had some kind of update rollout in the Play Store.
Actually, one just came out about an hour or two ago.
Oh, I haven't seen that one, but I saw one last week. I think it was. There was definitely one. Sorry. I dropped my mouse. The casualty of being here in the bedroom. So let's talk a little bit about the app itself. So if you're on Linux, you do have to compile. You're not getting static binaries. You're not getting an app image. You're not getting a snap.
And Mac, and Mac
yeah,
too.
not a flat. Oh, so you're and Mac. Is there like a brew script or anything like that for using brew in Mac, or is there? Are you still
not a brew script, but just a simple. Somebody else posted on the GitHub site under discussions. Somebody else posted. It's just like four simple steps. It's like install brew, get Qt. Essentially, you get that and you just run qmake and make just like on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you just create
simple.
your build environment, and it's pretty simple.
Yeah, it's just all about getting Qt development libraries on your.
And does it run on the new M1? Russ?
I don't even know what that is. I heard you talking about it earlier.
It's the new ARM Mac. Yeah, the Mac that runs on ARM.
ARM Mac.
Yeah.
Well,
I have not tried it, so I don't know.
It should.
Oh,
I don't see any reason why it wouldn't, as long as the library, as long as the libraries are available. It most certainly should. I build Linux DudeStar on a Pi all the time, so there's no reason.
Yeah.
And actually, that's interesting that there's a Mac with an ARM, because I have been considering an option to pull in the MD380 firmware for use in DudeStar when being run on a ARM platform.
Interesting.
Which will that MB+2 encoder, which is used for DMR, NXDN, and YSF actually works quite well. I'm really impressed with how well it works. But the MBE Live for decoding, so essentially for listening, I don't know if you've used it enough. It's noisy, especially on Fusion. It seems like it's that whenever there's any slightest hint of background noise, it seems to amplify it. That's just a artifact of MBE Live, and that would be greatly improved with being able to use the MD380 firmware vocoder, which could be done on both Raspberry Pi and probably this ARM-based M1 thing.
Yeah.
So that's just another one of those things that's on my list.
Yeah, I notice a lot. Like, let's talk a little bit about the user interface and stuff like that. So when you launch it, you have a tabbed interface. You have a main tab, a settings tab, a log tab, and an about tab. You can forget about the log and the about unless you're concerned about stuff.
Yeah.
So on the main tab, I know there's you do have a gain for the codec gain. I've typically had to use that to kind of bring up the signal and stuff like that, and that's kind of been very helpful. And I know when I was testing on various computers, I had to either reduce my mic gain by a specific amount or bring it up. Because me and Russ were testing and stuff like that. And again, those are sliders on the interface as well. But in the settings tab is basically where you set up all your magic stuff, your user ID, your call sign, which I think is all you need initially just for YSF. And I know how you mentioned YSF was super easy. Anybody can get on YSF.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter. There's no authentication, no nothing. So all you needed was the call sign there, and then
up until up until a few releases ago, you really could download DudeStar and have every field blank and connect to YSF. If you've noticed now, it DudeStar, yeah, I got some emails about that one. DudeStar and DroidStar, what I will never do, I'm not going to do, first of all, it's open source, and I'm never going to change that. So if I did put some sort of registration system in there, anybody could just defeat it anyway. But what I did do, and this is about as far as I'm willing to go for this. This is based on I got a number of emails from server admins, quite upset with the ability that the software is open and can't be regulated. So as of a couple releases ago, I just made it. You have to put in a DMR ID, and a call sign, and they have to match. Simple. It's not far from a perfect method of authentication, but it's good enough to defer the. Some folks were just downloading it and just launching it with nothing in there, and apparently, having a field day on.
Right.
From what I gather, mostly YSF. It was just YSF. So then we got into a discussion. It became more of a discussion than an argument. We were saying it's not the client writer's responsibility. It's the server admin's responsibility. If you want a completely wide open server, you're going to have to deal with stuff like that.
Yeah. I noticed that on I must have been logging into either the DroidStar or something like that, because I was just trying to connect to YSF, and I'm like, I got to put in my stupid DMR ID.
Yeah, I did that. That's about 2 or 3 versions ago, and that's my attempt at some sort of
some kind of authentication or verification. Yeah. Which makes complete sense.
Yeah,
it does.
It's not that hard.
Sense. Yeah.
DMR IDs are kind of pretty much used all over the ham community now. I mean, 90% of the time when you're on any mode these days, you're being cross-moded somehow, and when you're being cross-moded, you're almost always almost all cross-mode based networks are using DMR ID in the middle via XLX. That's what it uses to try, to do lookups on everybody. When you come in D-Star and then come out any other mode, in the middle you're being translated to a DMR ID and then coming out of either some default if it couldn't be found, or a translation of the call sign to DMR ID back out to call sign. So it just seems like everybody should just get a DMR ID, even if they have no interest in DMR.
Yeah, and it was like before. When I was first trying the software, I didn't have anything. So it literally only took like 24 hours for me to get both my DMR ID and my hotspot security password all set up with the Brandmeister network and the radio ID thing. So it was super easy. So, anybody that's brand new to digital modes like me. You haven't bought a radio, you haven't bought a hotspot, but you're hearing about, obviously DroidStar and DudeStar and stuff like that, and thinking that maybe you can get into this. It's actually super easy.
Yeah, I would hope.
I had everything in 24 hours.
But I know that there are some things that kind of are confusing. Yeah,
I wasn't there's no specific guidebook that says, hey, okay, first you got to go get the DMR ID. That's the first thing you got to establish. As soon as you have that established, you can go to Brandmeister and then get your hotspot password set up. And then you got to go into the hotspot setup area in Brandmeister and actually add a hotspot with your password, so it actually works and you can authenticate for talk groups inside of the DMR network. So yeah, it's not terribly intuitive, and I'm not, your software is not responsible for enforcing that workflow or training that workflow, but it is a kind of an interesting process from my perspective, trying to get into it. Russ, on the other hand, has every digital thing.
Not everything.
Almost everything. I even convinced him 6 months ago to buy a IC 7100, right? Because you had to have D-Star.
nice.
That was the one thing I didn't have, so I had to have it.
Yeah, he had to have it. And I said, well, why don't you buy that and you can send me back my HF radio that you're not using on 6 meters like you should.
That's funny. It kind of brings up an argument I used to have for anybody that would ever come to me and saying, not that anybody has ever done this, but my argument, I've got a bullet in the chamber just ready for the argument if there was ever the argument that, taking away business from real radios or whatever. But everybody, including myself, that's used this has soon taken an interest in some mode to where they've gone out and bought radios that they may never have went and bought. I for Christ's sake, I own an NXDN HT now. Why on earth would I only did that because I wanted to understand it better and support NXDN better in this software. There's no, I'd never even heard of NXDN. I don't even think there's a NXDN repeater anywhere hundreds and hundreds of miles from here. And nobody I ever talked to around here has ever heard of it. But now I own NXDN hardware. So, and I would have never bought that thing now granted I bought it used on eBay, so I guess the argument's not that good for the manufacturer, but
it's still fine. Still, you bought some physical hardware.
Yeah. I mean, I now own a digital, at least one digital radio from every mode that we have available to us on ham radio now. Yep, every one.
Well, if this says anything, I own none.
Nice.
So my only experience is
well, you're my target audience.
It was with starting with Peanut, and that was my first entrance into using the phone for these other modes, and then when DudeStar came apparent, and when did this project actually start? Not a year.
I think it's just over. Honestly, it's it started about a year and a half. Well, I think we're coming on 2 years now. But I kind of started it and then kind of forgot about it, and it was ugly and clumsy and half-assed. But when it really kind of retook off again was COVID. Honestly, it just I'm working from home. I haven't seen my lab since last March, and and I love it. And it's funny because there's this massive highway project that's happened to be going on in between my house and my lab, which is about 30 minutes away when it's when things are good. It was just getting to the point where I was dreading. It would be like side streets all the way there. It was miserable. And this COVID thing just worked out perfectly. By the time I'm going back to the lab again, the project's going to be done, and it's going to be like it never happened. So I'm not really complaining about the state of the world right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I work from home. Russ works from home, so we're really familiar with that. And it's like when the COVID happened, I think Russ stopped going to the office once every other week,
twice a month. Yeah, it was
twice a month. Yeah. And then I was like, there's no difference to me except for now my wife's home and my my middle schooler's home. So it's like, yeah, I need to get an office so I'm not at home anymore. So,
Nice.
yeah, so I have a private office, which I'm not at tonight, but I'm at home. Yeah, so yeah, it's not very old. And, I kind of heard about it. When did we start talking about Dude Star, Russ? Was it like about 2 or 3 months ago? We kind of
Something along those lines, yeah.
Someone had mentioned it, and I'm like, oh, this looks kind of cool. And then I don't think I actually tried it. We tried it like a month or two ago.
I think it was Koos who mentioned it. Wasn't that one of his tweets?
Yeah, Koos had mentioned it in one of his tweets. And I keep dropping my mouse. That's funny. Yeah, so I was like, okay, fine, I'll install it. And then when I started playing with it, I connected to Russ's YSF room, and I'm like, holy cow, this crap works.
Nice.
And I'm like, oh, we got to try all the other things. And of course, Russ has everything, and well, almost everything, right?
Yeah,
So you guys been on M17 yet?
The only thing we haven't tried is M17, because I was like, I don't know anything about it. I don't know where to connect, and I don't know.
No, we did try it.
What to
Remember, we tried to connect to a couple of the Polish repeater or something. One of the options that was in there. I don't think it worked though.
You guys should start frequenting. Go to M17-USA Module A. M17 USA A.
Okay.
That's where all the cool kids are now.
All right, we'll give it a shot for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll definitely try that. Yeah. We have mentioned obviously M17 over the time period that has been becoming a thing.
Yeah, let me add. I when I said it picked up again because of COVID, that and this M17 project, those are that's my main interest right now. So it's really my interest in continuing to improve Dude Star and Droid Star it started when COVID hit, but when I really started taking an active interest in trying to make it more usable as far as the UI is concerned, I would say that was solely based on my interest in M17 now, because since they have both become kind of the flagship apps of the mode right now until there's real radios.
Yeah. We've been kind of following it with the little news here and there and stuff like that. So yeah, it'll be interesting if we can get a hold of that Steven and kind of have a discussion about M17 and more discussion and more detail like that. But let's get back to the Dude Star app. We're just kind of going over the notes here. So we kind of talked about the setup and what you kind of need to basically get it going. Obviously, if you're doing D-Star, you said there's a bit diminished performance, but like you can listen to D-Star.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think I connected, and didn't we connect Russ with D-Star and it sort of worked?
I'm not sure we tried D-Star. We've done DMR and YSF. I'm not sure about D-Star.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So maybe we didn't quite try that. I know we tried transmitting because I have it set up here with your call, the CQ, and the NE4RDG thing and stuff like that.
Oh, maybe we did actually. Yeah, I think we might have. Now that you remind me.
Do either of you guys own Ambi dongles?
No.
Okay. I just so you know, and anybody listening knows, it does support the Ambi dongle, even though my goal in life is to bring DVSI down to their knees with all the alternative Ambi coding solutions, but it does support the USB dongle.
Well, I don't want to spend a dime on this, so I'm all for that.
Yeah, that's fine. Believe me, the only thing stopping this from being 100% Ambi free is honestly the quality of the D-Star, which is, well, to speak of it in terms of Ambi, it's the Ambi Plus. There's Ambi Plus used by D-Star, and then Ambi Plus 2, which is used by the big three. Well, I don't know, say the big three, the other three, DMR, Fusion, and NXDN. And then P25 uses one that precedes them all, called Ambi, actually, which happens to be the same as Fusion Wide. That's why those two can cross mode so easily. And then, and then Codec 2 with M17.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the extra stuff. Like I see here that there's an optional F-Lite text-to-speech build. F-Lite. I've never heard of that. So talk to me about that, because I don't know exactly what that is.
I put that in there because I got sick of talking to myself all the time when developing this stuff, going, hi, test. So now you know what? So I put that in there just as a method to transmit some audio for development purposes. Really, that's why it's well. Not only are the dependencies kind of hard to set up, but its value to the end user is kind of low, honestly, except for people that I think would want to cause trouble. Putting text in there and just transmitting it on a repeater or whatever. But I use it constantly during development. I just honestly, I'm so built into my head just out of simplicity. I always put in there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then when I'm developing on some mode, I'll just transmit that instead of having to talk into it all the time. So that's honestly, that's it. That's the only reason I did that.
Just out of convenience. There you go.
Yeah. And in fact, here I'll really quick here. I'll just fire up on an unused module on my M17 reflector. I'm sure that should come through on my little mic here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You got to put dashes in there, or else it'll just try and say like 12 million, blah blah blah, and blah blah blah. But let's see if it comes out. Let me turn the volume up on my mixer a little bit here. But here's what you'll hear if you use the text to speech option.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Did that come through?
Yeah.
Sure did.
That's kind of cool. So that's primarily for testing and debugging and stuff like that.
And the F-Lite libraries, it's not super easy to set up. And of course, I don't document that because I don't even remember how I did it. Once I got it on my computer once, I haven't changed it since. It's not installing the library itself isn't that hard. It was getting the voices. The voices are something you got to go find elsewhere or something. I don't even remember, but
and it's different on every system too. So it'll be different in Linux versus Windows versus everything else. So if you grab anything besides the default voice, things might be odd.
Yeah.
Depending upon your environment.
And what F-Lite stands for, if you're not familiar though, is Festival. If you've heard, Festival is a very well-known open source, high quality text-to-speech project. F-Lite is a really stripped-down 8-bit, actually 16-bit. That's right. I desample it down to 8-bit, or no, I forget. But anyway, it's a much less quality, but much faster and less resource-intensive version of the very big resource hog Festival, which is quite good. Like human good.
Yeah.
But F-Lite is nothing near that.
Yeah. So that's kind of a little neat option. Of course, just going down the list here, we already talked about M17 support. A little bit of usage. We kind of touched base on there. Basically, in the main screen, you do have the option of selecting your modes. And I know it does help if you understand which mode you're connecting to. Because I know, like, when I was doing the DMR with Russ, he was like, okay, so you need to connect to one of the main modules, and then you have to put in this talk group.
Yep.
And I'm like, again, this is totally intuitive.
Yeah. That's the thing about it. Right now, it kind of does imply that you know exactly what you said. You know at least the mode that you're looking to use. Yeah. I mean, somebody that go in on D-Star for the first time, I know, does have no idea what those my call, your call, repeater 1 and repeater 2 are for, or that they're even there, for example, which, now, granted, that's for transmit only, but which you really shouldn't do without that's the one I say you should do it on an unused module with a friend or something to test or whatever, but most certainly shouldn't try and just use it day to day for regular QSOs. It's really bad. It's really bad. But it's there. I put it in there specific. In fact, it was disabled in DroidStar for the longest time. I finally said screw it and enabled it. But you get a pop-up. You get a stern warning pop-up every time you now connect to D-Star on DroidStar.
Which I think I've only done once, so I don't have to worry about that too much. The only thing I noticed, like in the Windows build, the software RX and software TX checkboxes keep unchecking themselves every time I restart the application, which is annoying because I don't have an AmbiChip and I never will buy one. So
well, You don't have to ever. They'll check themselves when you connect to anything. They will always check
really?
themselves.
Okay, I never looked at it. I just kind of saw it, and I'm like, oh, I got to check.
Upon connect, it looks for if there's one available, and if so, you've selected a vocoder in the pull down of USB devices. If you don't select one, every time you connect, they'll gray out. They'll become they'll check themselves, and then they'll be uneditable. So you can just simply ignore them.
Ignore them. I just did it, and I connected to Russ's WhatsApp server, and they checked themselves. So yeah, I'm an idiot.
Well, again, this is it's just a program that I'm just creating as I go with no rhyme or reason and absolutely zero documentation. It's just kind of, someday I figured, and I feel like I'm getting close now. For a while there, I was just like, I don't think it'll ever be there. But I'm actually starting to feel a little confident that it's getting close enough to where I may be able to call it I dare not say that word, finished product, but something close enough to where I can stop and take a step back and and write up a web page with all kinds of with stuff like we're talking about,
So if you were to say what this is, I mean, is this beta quality, alpha quality?
Beta, certainly, most certainly beta. Yeah, I'm still sticking to the buzzword beta.
Yeah, because we don't really have you technically have tagged build numbers, but I mean, you haven't really put out like an RC build or anything else like that.
I'm just using those I'm using the Git build IDs for versioning right now, except on DroidStar. I just a kind of a made up number, 0 point something. I think it's 0.42 as of today.
Yeah, as long as it's below 1, nobody's going to give you much flack for that, right?
Exactly. And there is, I don't know if you guys ran across that yet, but I've got the one that you heard running on my, that's actually an iPhone. I've got an iPhone version here that I'm hopefully going to be able to put out soon here, and I'm going to put that out on Test Flight, it's called. You ever heard of that? Yeah. It's called Test Flight for iOS software. I guess that makes it a lot easier than me trying to get it into the regular Apple iOS store.
Well, yeah, you'd have to get an iOS developer account and everything.
Well, I had to do that anyway. I do have that. I had to do all that anyway, but the Test Flight program is where there's kind of no questions asked. So
takes care of the certificate signing and everything else that you have to do.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. So
I'll
that'll
be looking forward to that since I have one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Russ is
I would have put it out by now. There's just this one stupid bug. It's the same bug that exists on the Mac version. It has to do with the transmit audio. So I guess it would be the audio capture. There's a bug in Qt. You can find a deep discussion on this on my GitHub site under one of the issues. Unfortunately, anyway, we don't get into that here. But there's an audio bug that I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to have. Do I want to wait for Qt to fix this, or am I going to have to write something in native Objective-C to get audio capture into the iPhone while waiting for Qt to fix that audio bug. So that's kind of where that's where I'm idling at right now. But otherwise, it's done and works great. So that I should come up with something for that soon.
That'll be cool. Russ will definitely appreciate that. So yeah,
I was sitting here getting ready to install the Dude Star on my Mac here, but I ran the Mac port and it started to download Xcode, and I said, well, maybe I'll wait.
Oh yeah, you most certainly need Xcode. Yeah, definitely need Xcode.
Yeah. 8 gigs later.
Yeah, which I don't want to download during the stream, so we'll wait on that.
Yeah, that would probably be pretty good. So yeah, I see. I was looking at the GitHub repo, and you're using just the hash ID from the tag or from the commit to do your tagging of releases. So eventually you probably want to go to like a semantic build number there as well. So, and then you can tag the releases as well on that. But I see there's only one release, or it would be just the current release.
Yeah, that's something else I do that might confuse people. But whenever I put a build up there, it's almost always because there was something very wrong with the one before it. So I don't ever want the ones before it available. So every time I put up a new one, I delete all remnants of the old one. So at any given time, the Windows builds, and I don't even like calling them. That's just what GitHub calls them. I don't like calling them, and I say that in there. I think they're just courtesy builds. They're not. They should not be considered anything near a release. But that's just a place. That's just a convenient place that GitHub gives me to put them, and I'm too lazy to. I still don't. One of these days I'll have my own website and stuff like that. But for now, I'm just making use of the facilities in the easiest way that I can.
No. I mean, GitHub is perfect for this. I mean, it works really well. It can track your releases and stuff like that. And even if you have older releases, I think it's fine to keep them up there. I mean, once you go to semantic building and stuff like that, you probably can tag your most current release, and then people just click the releases and they can see that, oh yeah, the most current release is this. And, maybe at some point you'd have the ability inside the app to detect the fact that there's a new release by heart beating back to the GitHub account or something like that. But hey, it's good enough. I mean, this is beta quality, like you said. So this is a buyer beware type software. We
do offer a money back guarantee.
Yeah, you'll get all your money back, but you won't get any of the bits and bytes that you've lost.
Yeah. Or any of the people that you pissed off, or any of the modes that you got banned from. Can't help you there.
So let's go ahead and let's mention the license as well. What license do you have this released under? I don't even see a license file.
Ooh. Well, it's just in the top of every header, every source file and every header file.
Oh, okay. Well, you should add it in your GitHub as a license file as well, because that actually tags the repo. Yeah, you should definitely have a license file in there.
Yeah, see, that's something I never even looked at either.
Yeah, if you just kind of just troll around GitHub, because we do a lot of what we call GitHub dumpster diving for projects. There's always a license file, and the license file gets picked up by the software, and it also tags over in the right-hand side so you can see that. Much like it says right now, languages, it actually takes that and detects your whole repo, and it says, yeah, there's 74.7% C++, 15.9% C, 9% Objective-C, and then 0.4% other. It's on the right-hand side.
You know more about this than I do.
Yeah, when you just go to your landing page for your dude star in the repo, you got the about on the right-hand side, and you keep going down, it says releases, and you can see how it says tags. So that's where you'd have your multiple tags.
Hold on, tags.
Yeah.
Where did you see the stuff about? I see.
Going down. Yeah.
No, the languages. That's what I was. Okay, I see.
Yeah, this is how we track.
I never even looked at that. That's pretty cool.
Because we have the contributors, and we're like, okay, who's the big contributor? Oh yeah, it's this no star guy. So
wait a minute. I don't even know who T it is.
Oh, you must have had a pull request or something.
Oh, he probably there was a couple.
Okay,
very basic pull requests.
So let's talk a little bit about contributors, because obviously you had one. Are you looking for more contributors into the project, or are you not quite ready for that?
No, not right now. Not right now, because I mean, oh my goodness, it seems like they all come from overseas. Meaning, I wake up every morning to probably anywhere from 5 to 20 emails. They're starting to slow down now, I think, but they were. I'm not exaggerating about that. About 5 to 20 every morning when I woke up, all about and a lot of them were just repeats of the same thing over and over again. They were just like, I am aware, but they're talking about things like niceties that are so far away, and I'm still trying to make it not crash and not make your computer shut down and fry your USB port, or I just when I'm comfortable enough that I've done my part well enough, then probably turn it into a bigger community project. And but it's not like I'm turning anybody away now. Of course nobody's if somebody says, hey, look what I did, if it's good, sure. That is the nature of GitHub, of course, and there's some forks out there I'm aware of already. Now there was one guy that forked it though because he wanted to make it visual C++ buildable, and I just that made me a little nauseous. I can't have that, so I told them that's fine. That's the GitHub way for you to fork, but I won't have that. Everything has to hit. Not only is the software open source, I only am interested in having it built by open source compilers and et cetera, et cetera. I'm just not interested in then having it built in any other way than GNU based stuff. Not GNU, GNU.
Well, yeah, there are 42 current forks, so there's quite a few forks out there. A lot of those are just people pressing the fork button and making one local copy. I see you have one pull request out for changing or adding a Mac OS app icon right now.
That one's been there. I'm sitting on that one until I can sit down and just make sure that it works right, because I do want to have the Mac OS app option correct.
So if people are interested in any, let's say issue or enhancement request, you want them to use the GitHub issues?
Yeah, GitHub's the greatest.
Yeah.
And I'm glad this discussions things came up, because what I didn't like about GitHub was when people would use issues just to talk about stuff. But now this discussions is relatively new on GitHub, so the repo owner has to enable it. So I immediately, I'm surprised I saw it. I just stumbled upon it on accident. It's been there waiting for me for a while, so I enabled it, and that's perfect. That's almost like it's essentially a forum. So
yeah, it's even better than issues. So
so that's the best place. And I welcome the DroidStar stuff. That's where I think that's where I would want all the DroidStar stuff to go to.
Yeah, and you have categories in there of general ideas, Q&A, and show and tell.
And people have been making those themselves. I don't make those categories, which is nice. I don't have to.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't really messed around with that. We use GitLab at work, so it's almost the same, but slightly different.
GitLab, yeah, that's what Ardor uses. My Elmer software project.
Yeah, when Microsoft bought it, everybody ran scared and went over to GitLab, and it's like, okay, whatever, it's the same thing. Anyway, so I see you got some open issues. Let's see what else we got here. Are you using the wiki at all? Oh, you do have some stuff in the wiki.
Do I?
I think so. Well, maybe
it says welcome to the DudeStar wiki. Nope, I didn't really know about that.
Yeah, we don't care about that. That's fine. But definitely get a license file in there. That would probably make everything super happy. But this is really cool. And what else was I going to say about this? I know I was looking at this for a reason, and I can't remember what it was. So, Russ, what do you have?
What?
Anything else?
What? No, I don't.
What? What? Oh,
I was
talk to
so
us
happy
about
that you were.
I was. Oh, just keep on going.
Yeah, I was just so happy that you were, talking and stuff, and I was just sitting here and enjoying the conversation and learning all about DudeStar.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I was on your QRZ page, and I was seeing there's a piece of hardware there, the DudeStar Proto 1. Can you talk to a little bit about what that was or is?
Yeah,
or
so
isn't.
Yeah. So let's talk about what it will never be. What it never will be is a commercial product, because I knew better making those things. People saw the stack and immediately thought I was in some sort of business. But when you create PCBs, you always get you don't just get
buy
one.
a dozen of them or so.
Yeah.
You have to buy so many.
Those are Christmas tree ornaments now, so that worked out well. All right, but what that was, and that project though is alive and well, and that's actually why I'm not. It's not that I'm interested in making DudeStar and DroidStar and taking away the radios. I love the radio aspect of it, and I'm using DudeStar and DroidStar to I used it to learn down to the bit per bit of every mode's digital protocol, so that now I can take those packets and put them out on the air, and I do that with what I call the DudeStar Radio Project. I think there is a link on my QRZ page where I use an old analog radio, any analog radio with a 9600 with a data port, that typically it's a DIN 6. I've seen a couple radios use a DB9, but usually it's a DIN 6. It's a packet radio interface, but it's got a data port, And any radio that's got that data port with this DudeStar Radio project, it allows you to use this radio as a full blown all digital mode radio. It's sweet. And M17 next, but right now, I use my ICOM 706, my ancient ICOM 706 here, and I talk Fusion, I talk P25. Those are the two I use it for the most. P25 and Fusion. DMR is you can listen, you can receive tier 2 DMR, meaning time slotted repeater type DMR. But you can't without it's complicated because basically you got to have two radios. You got to have one to receive and send at the same time. I did it once as a bench test proof of concept fun project, but it's not practical,
Yeah.
because of the way. But it works. You can talk DMR simplex all day long. It's sweet. I did DMR simplex with a guy, up in about 20 miles from here using that because you don't need to be able to receive and send at the same time like you do with tier 2. So that's the deal there. But what those boards were was basically a microcontroller and an ambi chip. And then, where's that? Is that us making that noise? I just heard it doo-doo.
Oh, that's it could be.
Anyway,
It's Discord. I'm not sure where it's coming from. I thought I had all my notifications turned off, but
that might be me. I think I'm hearing it from my speakers. But anyway.
Yeah, it could be from you too.
Yeah. Instead of that board that I made, I decided instead not to reinvent the wheel so much and just use Pi-Star with a. What really happened is because I got so close to not being able to need that ambi chip. That was the key. That board is, the ambi chip. The rest of it, without the ambi chip, it's just like any old MMDVM board. And by MMDVM board, I mean not the hotspot board with the ADF7021 on it, but I just mean the radio board, the one that just has a microcontroller on it and allows you to connect it to a radio. Which is the original MMDVM board. The rest of them are actually called like MMDVM HS or Zoom spots or whatever.
Yeah.
But the original MMDVM board was just a microcontroller and a connector on it, and you plug that connector into the back of a radio. And that's what's used for repeaters, MMDVM-based repeaters. They'll take two of those, 2 analog radios, and voila, you got yourself a full-blown repeater. So anyway, that's that. So now that project is just a Pi, just a Raspberry Pi with an MMDVM board on top of it, plugged into the back of an analog radio, and then I modified. I add pins to a couple of GPIO pins, and each one of them becomes a push-to-talk circuit for each different mode that you want. And since all the modes, I can now do vocoding over software or that firmware, which runs on a Pi. And for D-Star, you just plug in a dongle. So there's a video of that. So on my QRZ, there's a link to the Dudetronics website, which is also just kind of a joke. I'm not a business. That's a joke site, but and the dude, if you're curious,
it's not much of a site, I have to say.
Yeah, it's not anything.
I would is this a real website?
that's an artifact of my laziness. Yeah, that in fact, up until very recently, if you had ever gone there, it was just a picture of the dude from that scene where the dude, that's where the dude came from.
The Big Lebowski,
yeah. Yep. But for years, probably 2 or 3 years, when I thought up that domain I got before I even had an AM radio license, that domain actually came from a automotive CAN controller I created, which I called Duderino. So yeah, it's an automotive
Nice.
It's an automotive
Nice.
diagnostic device, and I called that Duderino, and that led me to make that domain Dudetronics. I thought maybe I would commercially sell this thing, and then I realized, I'm in the business, a massive conflict of interest there, so I never went any further with that. I get these these ideas all the time, and I never go anywhere with them. But I got a great full-time job, and I don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
But that's where all that
The
came
problem
from.
with solving problems at work with software and hardware, right? It's
Yeah.
it's like all of a sudden you're like, I can't sell this, and if I use it for work, making my job easier, then they'll own it.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of what it boils down to.
I'll just do it the old-fashioned way and do it the hard way.
But all this good stuff, that's where that came from. It's just 5 minutes of thought into it and said, Dude Tronics, Dude Dorino, Dude Star, Dude whatever. Dude.
So you were watching The Big Lebowski when you decided on the naming, so.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, Russ, do you have anything else on the dude stuff before we bother him about anything else?
I don't think so. I don't have anything specific. Certainly, I think we've covered all the bases. We've talked about the application, its cross-platform, its license, where it came from, its
I had a
genesis,
question for
where
you
it's
guys really
going.
quick.
Oh yeah, go for it.
No, have I? Oh wait, I think we already. No, I was just because I remember early on. I remember you mentioning that you both had Macs. I just wondered if you had tried it on Mac yet, but I think you already said you haven't done it yet. You were going to try it in the middle of the interview, but you didn't want to download anything yet. Yeah.
Hey, he has a download.
No, yeah, I would definitely. If you guys are Mac owners.
No, my Mac is running Fedora, so.
Oh, nice.
I have a Mac running Debian, but I do have the new M1, which I am going to download Xcode on when we get done here, so I can see what it builds like.
Yeah, nice. No, that was my latest sort of support edition. I had always called it fully cross-platform, knowing that it should build on Mac, but only again, this M17 project made me take an active interest in it enough to where I'm now a Mac laptop owner just for the purposes of making sure I can support it correctly. So I'm happy with the fact that it does build and work pretty well on Mac. Yeah, it works great on Mac.
Well, I think if I get this thing working on my Mac, then when we do the M17 interview, we can do it via M17.
That would be cool. Yes.
Totally cool. Well, okay, so now I'm just going to start asking random questions because we're to that point in the interview before we ask you if we forgot anything. So you, on your QRZ page, you also mentioned you're a gearhead, and you kind of mentioned you work for a major vehicle manufacturer. But you also mentioned you have a motorcycle project. Do you still mess around with motorcycles?
That's a story.
Yeah, your FZR 1000.
Oh, the FZR 1000. Yep. I crashed that bike and broke my neck. So,
oh, jeez.
Yeah. And I made a miraculous recovery. I was supposed to be full-blown quadriplegic for the rest of my life, but I made a miraculous recovery. And I still got the bike, and I still rode it a few times. I just haven't. It's not even that I'm scared of it or anything anymore. I just kind of lost interest in it. I guess because of that. It's hard to explain how I feel about that, but
well, I suppose if you yeet yourself into the great wide open there, it would definitely change your attitude towards using it all the time.
Yeah, that thing was a doozy, man. So it went from about 75 horse stock, which that was the 86 Yamaha FCX 700 Phaser, they called it, Fazer. They only sold it in America for 2 years. So, but it was considered. They called it the baby VMAX. So it was a performance-oriented cruiser-style bike already. Mm-hmm. I think they got a term for them these days. They call them naked bikes, but that term didn't exist back then.
Yeah, not back then, no.
Yeah. But I outgrew the performance. I needed more, so story of my life. I needed more, so I put an FCR 1000 engine in and built it up. Yeah. About 150 horse, I think. It was about 140 maybe-ish. About 140, 150 horse when it was done, and that thing was just crazy. And I put 60,000 miles. When I got it, it was a 1986. I got it in 96. The previous owner put 6,000 miles on it in 10 years. I put 60,000 miles on it in 4 years.
Wow. It was a daily rider then.
I rode it everywhere. Jesus. And here in Detroit, I rode it until there was actual ice on the ground. You can't do ice no matter what. You just can't do ice, but I did the cold.
Yeah. That's me too. I rode my bike until about 2 weeks ago, and now we're at negative 15 and snow on the ground. I'm not riding for a while.
Yeah.
And Russ rides as well, right? Russ, you're a VMAXer.
No, I'm not
or
a
V-Star, right?
No,
I was going to say VMAX, and oh my God, because that you would have probably known about that. That's what they advertised it as. It was called the baby VMAX.
No, I have a Vulcan. I have a cruiser.
Oh, the Vulcan.
Yep,
I thought you had like a Roadstar or something like that.
No. Yep, Kawasaki Vulcan.
Ah, okay. Well, I have the BMW R1150R, so awesome though. And let's see, just general gearhead stuff. I see pictures of a boat, a band. So what instruments do you play? Do you play drums or?
Drums, guitar, bass, and piano are my. Yep, those are in that. Or I'd say no. Bass is my primary instrument now in the band, but we kind of went on hiatus. And I guess bass and piano are the two I play the most now. Drums was my first and longest, and then I got trumped on drums by the lead guitarist's kid, and he took over drums and I moved to bass. That was a sweet deal. And we made a record here in Detroit and everything. It was pretty cool. It was me and my longtime fellow car guy, and it grew, growing up from kids. I was his drummer, and then I became his bass player, and his kid became the drummer, and then this other friend of ours, and it was a 4-piece rock band, and we did our thing for quite a while. It was pretty cool. Oh yeah, well that's where the whole recording thing I talked about earlier. That's how that was all intertwined together.
Yeah, getting into Ardor. That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, Russ is big into that, right, Russ?
Ardor,
Yeah.
or do you just mean recording in general?
Recording in general, I do
yeah.
live sound. I do stage performances and stuff, and I'm now learning bass guitar. So should have.
Oh,
So.
yeah, very nice. Yeah, I've got this. That's what the big audio stuff I was into when I was building my studio was I used modern computer as a recording interface, but then my big electronics project I briefly mentioned earlier was audio mic preamps, but they were tube based. They were tube based microphone preamps that I built. I based them around the old output amplifiers that were in these old 60s reel-to-reel decks. They were Roberts Akai. I don't know if that sounds familiar at all, but they were these old, really popular reel tape decks, and they had these removable amplifiers in them, low watt, like a couple of watts. They were just like 2 or 3 watt, 5 watt maybe output amplifiers that you piped out into speakers. But the circuit was just a really nice tube-based Class A amplifier, and I used those, modified them, and turned those into mic preamps. And it was this nice combination of vintage meets modern. So I had tube-based mic preamps going into modern computer-based recording software, and that was my setup, and it was really sweet.
You still fishing around for stuff to talk about, Bill?
No, I think I've gone to the bottom of the list. So we definitely need to ask you if there's something you wanted to mention about Dude Star or Droid Star or one of your side projects there that you wanted to mention that we haven't talked about. Go ahead and talk about it right now.
I think M17 is basically, I wanted to plug M17 as much as possible. I think I've done that. I'm glad that you guys already reached out to those guys, and I'll tell Steve I always KC1AWV. In fact, I'm going to type it in the chat right. Yeah, you guys were talking about Discord. I guess I'm old school, and I'm just I'm still IRC. The nice thing about M17 though is he's the guy that did this that we were talking about. Steve, did I say that right? Yeah, Steve.
Yeah.
KC1AWV. He's got the Discord and the IRC and the Matrix and some other one. He's got them all linked together. So I'm on IRC, and there's a bunch of guys on Discord, and we're all in the same room together.
Yeah, we actually have our Discord channel, our general channel is linked in with our Freenode IRC channel, which is also Octothorpe LHS podcast. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So yeah, as far as anything I wanted to say, just that M17's pretty much my biggest ham radio, my only ham radio. Well, whatever, my main ham radio interest right now, and I think everybody should check it out. And Dude Star and Droid Star is pretty much the recommended way to get to check out M17 right now, since it's network only at the moment.
And what was that node that you should connect to again from
M17-USA Module A.
USA Module A.
Yep. And it's that Module A. There's about 9 other reflectors whom all have their module A's linked together, and you can see that if you go to M17project.org and then the reflectors link. If you go to go find the reflector dashboard for M17 USA. I think it's called Peers. If you click on Peers, I think it is, you'll see typically 9 to 10 other reflectors all have their A mods linked together. So when you're on USAA, you're typically on 9 other reflectors A's. But USSA is considered that's the spot right now. That's where all the action is.
Awesome. Okay, and in the show notes, we have your homepage linked at Dutronics. We have the GitHub page linked, your QRZ page. Is there any other way people should reach out to you? Do you do Twitter or
no? Nothing.
Which IRC server do you hang out in that people control you on?
You control me on Freenode. I still idle, even though I'm not active with the Ardour group anymore. I've been idling in there for about 10 years now. No, 20. God, has it been that long? 97. Jesus, it's been over 20 years. 20 years.
Never disconnected, never net split once, right?
Never once. I've got 9 clients in there. Are you kidding me? I can't miss a beat. No. So, yeah, the M17 IRC is a different server called Geek Shed. And then Freenode, yeah, I'm on those two 24/7. Doesn't mean I'm going to respond to anybody, but my client idles there 24/7. Yep.
And you're on there as No Star, or
on Freenode? I'm No Star. On the Geek Shed, since I'm only there for M17, it's a call sign.
Okay, good. And let's remind everybody what that is: AD8DP, Alpha Delta 8 Delta Papa.
Yeah.
And yeah, this has been great. I love hearing about this stuff, and I'm so happy that we could finally connect on the podcast here. And over to you, Russ. What else do you got?
I really think we've nailed it as far as Dude Star is concerned, and we'll follow up for sure with M17. So we'll have some sort of additional information that has to do with Dude Star, and maybe talk about what updates there are in it when we actually get around and talking to Steve or whoever it is we get on from the M17 project. But I don't think I have anything else, unless anybody in the chat room has any questions for Doug they want to ask before we get on out of here.
I forgot. I think I closed that room, but it's okay.
And no, it's okay. We're kind of sort of watching it. A lot of people were commenting, especially who was Bill N3AJ was making a lot of comments along the way, dropping in links for people, which is quite helpful. So that was really good, including linking test flight to people and talking about creating your licensing file and stuff like
here
that
it is.
in the repo. So I don't see anything new.
Yeah, I don't see anything either. So I guess we should probably just go ahead and wrap up and let everybody get on with the rest of their evenings.
Yeah, very good.
So thanks once again, Doug, for being here. AD8DP, the author of Dude Star, and of course a major contributor to the M17 project, which I hope we learn about very, very soon. Thanks for being here, and I hope we talk again pretty soon.
Yeah, all right, awesome. It's great to talk to you guys, and hopefully we'll catch you later.
I'm sure we'll be talking at some point, for sure. But with that, let's go ahead and do one quick announcement. We wanted to make mention once again of the second QSO Today Ham Radio Expo that's coming up in March. It is March, right? Yes.
Yeah, March. Yeah.
And we'll be a part of that. There's some interesting stuff coming up, and we'll be talking with Eric, unless something changes, on the next not the next episode, not the weekender, but the next
395.
episode.
395.
Yeah, 395. We'll be talking to Eric, and he's going to tell us all about what's new in the QSO Today Ham Radio Expo from the last one, and maybe some interesting information, or maybe some, I don't know. We'll find out when we talk to him.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, think of them and send it into our email address, and or get on our Discord and tell us about him, and we'll make sure we ask him when he's on the podcast.
Absolutely, and LHSpodcast.info is the place where you got to go for all that information. So do it. Check it out. Send us some feedback. Participate in the show. We appreciate everybody who does so. And there were some folks with us tonight listening to the live stream and chatting up with us on Discord as we went through the interview. We had Tony, K4XSS, Bill, N3AJ, Don, KC9ZMY, Ted, WA0EAR, and Eric, KN4IIY. And, of course, we had 88DP, Doug. So
I thought I saw Tom in there, too. Yeah, Tom was there as well. Tom.
Oh, yeah, he was in there briefly. N4HAI.
Hi!
Yes, absolutely.
Who's going to change his call sign eventually, right? So
I think so we won't be able to do that anymore. That's too bad. It's his loss. But anyway, that's it for this one. This has been episode number 393 of Linux in the Ham Shack, our deep dive into Dude Star. Thanks everybody for being here. And for the absent Cheryl, who's on assignment of deliciousness, I'm Russ, K5TUX.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD 73.